Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive, frankly invisible crisis that's profoundly affecting Generation Z. We hear a lot of opinions floating around about young people and social media, right? But today, we're cutting through the noise. We're looking directly at the data, the brain science, and the psychology to understand exactly what is happening to the digital mind.
We have to start with a real public health mystery. Think about it. How can a generation with the entire world literally in their pockets, capable of messaging anyone at any time, be stranded on an island of their own making? It's a massive paradox. Gen Z is the very first cohort in human history to grow up entirely within a hyper-connected digital ecosystem, yet they are experiencing a severe epidemic of isolation.
Section 1. The Loneliness Paradox.
To really grasp this crisis, we first have to look at the staggering scale of the isolation. A shocking 80% of Gen Z respondents across the globe say they have felt lonely in the past 12 months. Just to give you a little context here, only 45% of baby boomers report feeling the same way. So why is the first truly digital generation so profoundly disconnected from the people around them?
Well, the answer lies in what experts call counterfeit connections. You know that feeling when you're passively scrolling through perfectly curated highlight reels? You aren't actually connecting with human beings, you're just watching a performance. These passive interactions substitute deep, real closeness with shallow digital metrics, and that just amplifies feelings of inadequacy. The crazy thing is, the very tools meant to unite young people are meticulously engineering their profound isolation.
Section 2. The Great Rewiring.
Social psychologist Jonathan Haidt calls this the Great Rewiring. And the research shows that right around the early 2010s, between 2010 and 2015, something fundamental shifted in our culture. We essentially saw the definitive end of the traditional play-based childhood and the birth of the phone-based childhood. Those incredibly sensitive developmental years, which are uniquely primed for socializing in the physical world, were basically hijacked by smartphones.
Just think about the contrast for a second. In a traditional play-based childhood, kids take physical risks, they read facial expressions, and they navigate the real world in what we can call a discovery mode. It builds resilience. But a phone-based childhood? That forces the brain into defend mode. You're relying on asynchronous interactions and constantly comparing your behind-the-scenes life to everyone else's highlight reel. It is a perfect recipe for chronic anxiety.
And, tragically, we see the results of this shift in the data. Today, only 45% of Gen Z individuals rate their mental health as excellent or good. That means the majority, 55%, rate it as moderate to poor. Plus, a massive 91% of Gen Z report experiencing physical and emotional symptoms of stress in a given year. The subjective well-being of an entire generation has just taken a sharp dive.
Section 3. The Pocket Slot Machine. Now, to understand why young people simply can't look away even when it makes them feel worse, we have to look at the specific engineering designed to hack the human brain. Tech companies use a psychological trick called variable ratio reinforcement. Believe it or not, this is the exact same behavioral mechanism that drives gambling addictions in casinos. When rewards are unpredictable in both their timing and their size, they generate a much stronger behavioral response. You refresh your feed, and you just don't know if you'll hit the jackpot of social validation or get absolutely nothing.
This builds into what neuroscientists call the dopamine loop. Here's how it works. You get a trigger, your phone buzzes. Instantly, your brain's ventral tegmental area fires dopamine. But here is the really surprising fact. That dopamine isn't released when you actually get the reward. It's released in anticipation of it. You open the app, get a variable reward, and the loop resets, submerging your mind into hours of compulsive scrolling.
Why is this so devastating for teenagers specifically? Well, it's absolutely crucial to remember that the human brain doesn't finish developing until around age 25. During adolescence, the reward circuitry, the gas pedal, is completely floored, making them biologically hypersensitive to this constant stream of digital social validation. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, the impulse control brake, is still under construction. We're essentially handing the keys to a Ferrari to a driver with absolutely no brakes.
Section 4. Hijacking the attention span.
The symptoms of this rewiring go far beyond just mood disorders. It's physically altering brain structures and attention spans. A massive study of over 80,000 subjects found that children with over 2 hours of daily screen exposure have a 1.51 higher odds ratio of exhibiting ADHD symptoms compared to those with less exposure. That is a 50% higher likelihood. Brain imaging even shows that heavy screen time is linked to delayed brain maturation.
By conditioning the brain this way,
Apps like TikTok are providing what's called high arousal media. The rapid edits and the infinite scrolling act as an external regulator for a young person's attention. But think about what happens when that same person steps into a low arousal reality, like a quiet classroom or a deep face-to-face conversation. They struggle. Their capacity for internal attention regulation in the real world is completely eroded because their brain has been trained to demand constant, highly stimulating sensory transition.
And ultimately, this heavy cognitive load and constant media multitasking isolates the user. There's a direct correlation here. 62% of Gen Z spending 7 or more hours a day on TikTok report deep loneliness. Discord-heavy users sit right at 60% and YouTube binge watchers at 48%. The deeper they sink into the digital world, the more profoundly disconnected they feel from the real one.
Section 5. The digital pushback. But you know what? The story doesn't end with despair. We are actually witnessing a generation waking up to the manipulation. You might assume young people love these apps, but the data tells a totally different story. When surveyed, nearly half, 47% of Gen Z express deep regret and explicitly state they wish TikTok had never been invented. They are highly aware of the toll this is taking.
The victims of this crisis are identifying the perpetrators. We're seeing massive regret rates across major platforms, 50% for X or Twitter, 47% for TikTok, and 43% for Snapchat. Because they recognize their attention is being harvested, Gen Z is actively seeking ways to disconnect. They're exploring digital minimalism and trying to set real boundaries.
As Jonathan Haidt so powerfully states, we have conducted a population-level experiment on the mental health of an entire generation without informed consent. This matters so much, because as we realize the scale of this unregulated, extractive capitalism, the pushback validates Gen Z's struggle. It proves that their anxiety and loneliness aren't personal failures. They are the expected results of highly engineered systems designed for profit.
Which leaves us with a final, provocative question. The challenge now isn't just about understanding the science. It's about asking ourselves, how can we build technologies that support genuine human flourishing, rather than exploiting our psychological vulnerabilities for profit? Are we finally ready to reshape the digital landscape and reclaim our minds? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.